Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Aulard Tweet event. Today, we have the pleasure to have a really amazing producer and artist that we shoot with Aulard. If you miss his masterclass, I strongly recommend you. It's like more than 5 hours and 30 chapters related to music productions, mixing, performing live, making decisions, artists, creative decisions. It's an incredible masterclass. But welcome, Olivier. It's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for the invitation, Mark. Always a pleasure. And yeah, welcome to Paris in my studio.
As you can see, today we want to talk about hardware versus software. And as you can see, Olivier has a really amazing collection of synthesizer as well as plugins as well. But before going deep into the workshop, please let us know where you're from, where are you watching from. If you have questions for this workshop, please write it in the chat. We will be answering the questions at the ending of the workshop. And please make this interactive. We're gonna be like asking questions and making as fun as possible. Um, um, the first question, obviously, before like going to the for the audience questions, like it's a topic, Olivier. It's a classic topic, like hardware versus software. What is the benefits from both worlds? And during the shooting I made with you in your studio, amazing studio, you really opened my mind in so many terms, in terms of hardware usability, creativity using the hardware. It was really like new approach to the synthesizer world, and as well the effective you were doing. But if you can, I know it's a hard question, but if you can tell us the main three benefits of the hardware world and software world, what would be?
Okay, so that's actually a long require a long answer. But yeah, let's yeah, it's nice to start with a statement about the, the benefits of both things. What I like, as you can see, I have a lot of stuff, a lot of hardware equipment. Uh, because when I started producing in the 90s, we had to use this equipment, like the software based solutions were not powerful enough. Plugins didn't exist. So when you wanted to produce music, you had to buy synthesizers, you had to buy a sampler, a mixer, a tape machine, and so that's how I began. Basically, that's how I have learned my craft. And for me, the benefits of hardware is mainly about the relationship you can establish with your equipment. Uh, in a way, it's like vinyls. You don't have to buy vinyls, but it's easier to create a relationship with your music when you have something you can touch, like that. And it's probably one of the reasons why vinyl is coming back these days. It's because I think people, everything is getting like cloud based, and people they, at some point they just need to touch something, to own something, and that's what I like with hardware. This connection with all these instruments that I have collected over the years, for the past 25 years. Um, for instance, the Jupiter here is I bought it in '97, something like this, '98, and it's like my friend. I have a connection with him. We talk to each other. We understand each other, and for me that's a very important thing. It's maybe more difficult to create this kind of connection with the software. It's not impossible. It's just more difficult, in my opinion. Maybe because I'm getting old too, but that's my approach. Um,
It's a physical connection, no? It's like
yeah.
the relationship, no? Right?
And that's something else actually. The relationship I was talking about was more like about like irrational, something you can't explain, like the connection you have with a friend. Then eventually you have like you have the physical connection that you have with your instrument. Of course, you can use controllers with the plugin, but with a synthesizer or with a hardware compressor, you're directly touching the sound. And I think it's important to remember that we are using instruments. It's like guitars, piano. Uh, they require a connection. They require some kind of sensuality. You know, like if you want to express emotion, you need to be able to use your body. And for me, once again, maybe it's because I'm getting old, but it's very difficult to only work with this, you know, like I really need to touch, I really need to dance in the studio and to feel this connection with my instruments. And yeah, that's a very important aspect in my workflow.
That's sort of have a connection with inspiration and creativity, right?
Yeah,
It's a straight connection, you know, because
yeah,
sometimes are people who say I'm not inspired, whatever, and maybe it's because they don't have a fully in connection with even if it's software or hardware, you know. Because
yeah,
I can tell you when you were using the Roland SH-101, and I saw the connection you have with that synthesizer, I was amazed. You know, I was amazed. What you build a relationship with this synthesizer and the way that you can express through that
yeah.
hardware.
Yeah, because at some points the instrument becomes an extension of your body and of your mind. And yeah, it's about practicing again and again until you reach this point and this kind of connection. And that's what I like, you know, like I'm talking about that in the masterclass. There are so many options and presets and plugins and samples and whatever, you know, like so many possibilities and options that is very easy to get lost during the creative process. And um, and I really like the limits of hardware, because you know right now I have a palette around me. You know, I know that if I want a bass, this kind of bass, you know, I have the one I want. If I want a pad, the kind of pad I'm using, you know, it's here all, and I can access all the sounds like just like very spontaneously, and I really like this. It's like when you're painting, you know, you have all those colors and you put everything on the canvas, and slowly you create a landscape. And that's what I'm trying to do when I work in the studio with those instruments. So those are the benefits of hardware equipment in my configuration.
So let's say like you have a real world sound lab, no straight access to real world sound lab full of real knobs that you can interact. No, let's say this is physical connection. Before we go more forward to this plugins, let me say like we have people watching from Texas and
Texas, hey!
London and Dublin
I'm coming to
and
Houston on Friday.
really.
Yeah. I'm playing in
Oh,
Houston on Friday. Yeah. So hello, Texas.
Texas, Rodriguez Jr. It's coming to play, and also Santiago de Chile, and Belgium, and Ariège. And actually, the team is telling that they made a special coupon only valid during this workshop that is at 25% off on the Rodriguez Jr. Masterclass. So if one of you missed the masterclass, it's such a great opportunity to learn with these incredible and talented artists. So we kind of understand like the benefits of working with hardware. Let's say also the experience you have using a hardware in terms of physical connections. It can be a long-term benefit, no? Because sometimes I guess like it's more difficult to change a hardware than a software. Software you can change so many plugins, but the relationship you build with a hardware that it's physically there every time. No, I feel like sometimes you have more like direct access, and it make you in terms of learning and to be more focus oriented to only use this, because sometimes seems like the amount of plugins we have access, it's like overwhelming too much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did a little introduction about software. So let's say, Rodriguez, what do you think about benefits of software?
Um, for me, it's I like the portability. I really like being able to produce music while traveling, you know, because sometimes a recording studio can be intimidating, and it's nice to be able to travel with a laptop and to have like a few nice synths, you know, like in your laptop and just record the music on the go. That's something I really like that you can't do with all that stuff, you know. So for me, that's a very interesting point. Um, I like the possibility to easily recall a project and work on a project over the month, over the years, and you can find your previous settings very easily. It's more complicated with hardware, and uh, and of course the software, when it's not emulation of already existing equipment, software offers a lot of power and creativity. You know, like I particularly like those granular synthesis based plugin, some kind of stuff you can do with Reactor, for instance. Uh, it's really nice and it's endless because you manipulating it's mathematics. So like the possibilities in terms of sound mangling and manipulation are endless. So yeah. Um, so yeah, you know, like both worlds have their pros and cons, and it's all about, you know, defining your needs, you know, as an artist and as a music producer.
So you you work with both worlds in
Yeah.
in so you take benefits of both worlds, no? But let's say what would be the what percentage of, for example, of software do you use in your compositions versus percentage of hardware?
It depends. It depends of the track. Sometimes it's 100%. I mean, no, it's not 100% hardware because I record in within Logic and I still use EQs and compression and stuff like this. So like, let's say from 90% hardware to 0%. You know, some of my tracks are actually totally software based. Totally. You know, like I'd say I you know I really like the sound of, for instance, Diva or uh, the Arturia Jupiter 8 emulation. You know, it's only with these two synths you can do like technically you can uh, you can create all the sounds that I can create with those machines behind me. You know, like technically. Then the connection is not the same, so then that's what we said before. But sonically, you can reach like very similar results.
In terms of sonically, in terms of sound, actually you did in the master class. He compared, like he took like a so oscillator from a Jupiter 6, and then you remember you took like one oscillator
Yeah,
from the software, and you were comparing, and actually in terms of sound they were the same. But then
yeah, yeah,
in terms of creativity, obviously it's different, you know, and because when you have all the sliders ready to go, you know, envelopes, everything, and I saw you like he's like I don't know, like he starts to twitching knobs, sliders, whatever, playing notes. That's something maybe more difficult to do with a MIDI controller because basically you need to map everything, you need to remember, and a MIDI controller it doesn't usually have enough sliders and knobs as a can have like a huge synth like and but I guess like you can do it. Obviously, you can do it, but it's more easy, you know, and to do it with a hardware synth. But in terms of sound, it's well, it's quite the same, no?
it's
In my
very
opinion, at least.
it's very similar. Yeah, particularly the Jupiter 8 from Arturia, the SEM. Diva is amazing. Diva has this very organic sound that you can get with vintage equipment. Um, what else? I mean, the native instrument Monarch sounds really like a Moog. I mean, it's really convincing. You know, like the only machine that is kind of, yeah, well, I would say the 101, but that's not true. There are like very good emulations of the 101. Uh, um, Yeah, maybe the ARC 2600. The ARC 2600, the emulation is still a little bit behind because you know that's all the instruments. I mean, each 2600 from the 70s is different. You know, they have like their history and so yeah, the emulation is not exactly something like the original. That's maybe one of the only example. And
You know, so, you know, like actually, I was checking because now we have here Antonus, like with a clone of your digital ARP 2600. And I was checking with experts, like what's the best clone of the ARP 260, 2600, sorry, 2600, or what is the best clone? And all the experts told me no one. There's no good clone of the ARP
yeah,
in terms of software, not in hardware. In hardware,
yeah.
like Anthony's we have here, it's the same sound. But
Yeah,
in
it's
terms of
difficult to
software,
replicate because it's like these very old synths like the VCS3 or the ARP. Uh, what happened inside is it's brutal, you know, like it's the ring mod, all that stuff. It's mathematically it's very difficult to create a model of this kind
uh,
of thing because it's really it's a lot of random elements to consider when doing the algorithms. So yeah, the ARP 2600 is definitely yeah. You still need the original, and if we talk about effects, that's very interesting. I have this old Ensoniq DP4, and I keep it because yeah, there is nothing that sounds like this. You know, it sounds terrible. It has this. It's noisy and but it has this French house, you know, sound, and I don't know any plugins that can replicate this kind of sound. So yeah, I keep it especially for that because it's just random. It's yeah.
actually, you know, because we were chatting last week, I got recently the Ensoniq and ASR10, you know, and it has the same sound processor as the DP4, not the full, but it has the same chip, and some of the presets are the same. He used the DP4 technology, and I was
Yeah.
playing with really cheap samples, and the sound quality of the effect, it really was a game changer, you know.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, I said, "Oh my god, now I need the DP4." So it's like a never ending. But let me do that a statement. I need it, but not because I really need to make music. It's just because sometimes, like a collector, or you know, like people like to collect, I don't know, baseball cards and that stuff. And sometimes we prefer to collect those synthesizer, and when we have time, use it. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
but I kind of definitely, I totally agree about the DP4 and the Ensoniq effects. They are incredible,
Yeah.
noisy, grunge. You know,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. That's a very. We can talk about that later if you like about this. Um, it's actually hardware with software inside. You know, like those old samplers. So that's in between, and that's very interesting. We should talk about that. But I wanna talk about what you just said about the collecting things. Uh, I received a few critics of people that they were like, "Yeah, you're telling us that software is great, but look at this shit, you know, like it doesn't make any sense, you know, like you're not the right person to tell people to use software." And actually, yeah, that's very important. Collecting things, collecting synths is not the same thing that producing music, you know. Like, so, for instance, when I work on a track, I'm gonna use this one, you know, maybe this one, I'm gonna use the Moog and that's it. I'm not gonna use this whole collection of synthesizers. That's a collection, you know. Like I never use this Y100F. I just keep it because I like it. It's beautiful, and that's a different topic. I know I have a few friends who collect synthesizers and they don't produce music anymore. No,
I
they
would
just
be one of those. Since I start working in Olat as a CEO, really I don't have time to make music, so I just collect them because I love them, and then I want to understand how they were made. You know, it's more like myself, like a student. I love to do what age they were made, how was the success, what technology they have inside. You know, but it's more like I'm one of those.
Oh man, I can imagine.
Olivier,
It's
the
frustrating.
chat
Yeah.
the chat is on fire. There's so many
Oh really?
questions. Like is unbelievable. We have
But
people.
I don't know. I don't know if people know that I cannot see the chats. You're the one receiving the questions. So if you want to forward me a few questions, just let me know.
Yeah, usually we start the questions later, but it's just
Ah, okay.
I was looking at the questions like, oh my god, I mean, we want to stay here like at least like a couple hours, but we want to move quickly about the questions, and let's say like we have more people watching us from Mexico, Argentina, New York, Greece, Poland, and it really made me happy to see like because music, one of the things I love is like music connects people worldwide. There is no walls, there is
Amazing.
no genders, there is nothing. It's just about music, no politics. No, it's one of the things I love about, especially with some genres, like they don't have specific language, like electronic music.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't matter if you speak French, Spanish, Russian, Greek.
Yeah.
It's about the music. But I really love the statement you made about the collectors. It's a criticism some producers have, like, oh, you have success because you have this amount of synthesizer, or your
Yeah.
sound quality is better because you have more gear, and that's totally untrue.
Yeah.
Untrue. It's about
That
skills and creativity.
that's a trap. That's a trap, and it's easy to fall into this trap. Particularly with socials. You follow the producers you like, and you see these incredible pictures of studios with stacks of scenes and compressors and stuff, and it's intimidating. It's intimidating. But let's be honest, and that's one of the myths. You don't need. Very important. You don't need all that stuff for creating great music. You
Yeah.
don't need that stuff. You need to define your needs. You need to define to figure out what are your tools, what are the right tools for producing your music, and it takes time and experimentation and trials.
Uh,
And yeah, but it's definitely intimidating. Sometimes when I'm on Instagram, I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then you listen to the music, and it's like, you can do it with Ableton Live and
yeah.
the plugins.
I want to start like watching like one of the questions, and if you have questions or you want to say what's the benefit for you of hardware versus software, please let us know. We want to make it open and creative. So if you want to have an opinion of that, please let us know, and we will share. As a reminder, we have a special 25% discount for Rodriguez Junior Masterclass, only valid during this Twitch event. So as much as we extend, more chances to use it. And I saw a really interesting question here. Um, says, what do you do to be able to focus on composition and creativity? Do you have set times during your day for that? I think it's a really interesting question.
I just show up in the studio at 9 a.m. and I spend my day in the studio and lunch with the family and then studio again. And at night, I really like um, working at night, and I work a lot. I work a lot. It's very important for me to have this space, this momentum, this dynamic, and spend time in the studio and just trying things again and again and again and again. And at some point, you kind of lose the control, and something happens. So yeah. So no particular routine. I just spend time in the studio and commit to creating something.
About, for example, that's my question, about, for example, creativity in terms of using software or even hardware. Do you read the manuals, or do you like to have happy accidents to kind of do chaotic experimentation? What's your approach in
No,
terms of manuals?
I like accidents. That's very interesting. And an accident, when it's good and when you manage to get it and to use it properly, it's a gift. It's a gift of God. So yeah, I like waiting for those accidents. You know, sometimes I will just run a sequence on the ARP, you know, like we did in the masterclass. Just run a sequence on the ARP and just like, you know, like just manipulate the knobs and wait for something to happen. You know, like it's the beauty of creation, creativity. It's like sometimes it's out of control, and I think we are all looking for something like this, you know.
So, but because you have a really deep experience about synthesis, so you learn that you by yourself, are self-taught, or you actually read the manuals at some point after some accidents, and you just say, okay, I want to know why this is happening, or you just let it go and want to be into a creative zone.
Yeah, I read manuals, and I've spent a lot of time learning synthesis, um, because I don't want to lose time on the wrong things. You know, if I want to create bass, I want to be able to create this bass in seconds, and then I will adjust it. An accident is something else. Accident is something that is beyond the technology, and accidents are not in manuals anyway.
Exactly.
Accidents is more like, it can be like a ground loop, it can be a problem with a cable, it can be you know, we are talking about the ARP 2600. It's just extremely wild, you know. If you touch like a knob like half a millimeter, the sound will be dramatically different, and it's not in the manual, you know. It's just like how it is, and that's two different things, you know, like learning your craft and looking for accidents, you know, that goes together.
That question was by TS own DJ. Thank you for the
No.
question. Six Ocean Music, it says, hi, what's the best and most efficient way to learn and master your first analog synth? He says, I got the Korg Mini. Thank you.
Very good, very good. It's about time, you know. It's about time, and investing time in understanding how a sound is made, what are the components of a particular sound, and how to control it with a synth. And it's always the same layout. Huh? If we talk about subtractive synthesis, it's always oscillators, filter, modulation, amplifier, and that's it. It's always the same thing. So once you totally understand this layout, you can reproduce it on any synthesizer. If we talk about subtractive synthesis, then you have the DX7, you have additive synthesis and all that stuff, but that's a different topic. If we talk about subtractive synthesis, it's about time and very basic physics knowledge. You know, like sounds are physics. So, you know, like understanding the harmonics and all that stuff, and how to control it in order to create a particular tone.
Well, when I saw you using the Sufari, the way you were performing it and explaining actually synthesis through
Yeah.
Sufari, Moog Sufari, you know,
Yeah.
I definitely what you just said. I think I really fully understand and
Yeah.
appreciate it when you were using the
Yeah.
all of the scenes, but in the chapter that you did, like the Sufari
Yeah.
content explanation synthesis,
Yeah.
it was incredible.
I think it's nice to start when you start learning synthesis. It's nice to start with very simple instruments. You know, like one oscillator or two oscillators, but no, like you don't want to start learning with a Moog One, for instance, with menus and like, you know, like it's too many options. It's nice to start with something very basic. So like the Minilog is great. The Moog is great. The 1-1 is great. One oscillator, one filter, one envelope, one LFO. You know, and that's it. And yeah, actually, I have learned synthesis. I don't know if I can get it.
Show us some scenes.
I've learned synthesis with this one.
Let me see.
That's a Kawai 100F. It's
Right.
yeah. So, and it's one oscillator, one filter, one amplifier, and you know, like one LFO and two envelopes. That's it, and it's monophonic. And yeah, I've learned with this one. I like it. It's a great sounding instrument. I don't use it. I don't use it so much because you know, like I have this and that, but I keep it because yeah, it's my first analog synth. And then eventually, my first polyphonic synth was the Jupiter 6, and once again, it's a great machine for learning. Really nice because the layout is great. You know, oscillator, filters, amplifier, envelope, LFO. It's like.
Shenesta Music says, what do you think about clones, like hardware clones?
That's
That's a tricky one, huh?
that's great. I mean, if you want this particular sound and if you don't want to spend crazy amount of money in an instrument, then it's great. Yeah, let's be honest. It's great. I don't know if you can hear the baby, but it's getting wild next door.
Don't worry. We know. You know, you are a father of family.
It's not a clone. It's a real one. No, it's great. I mean, for instance, I've tried this Roland boutique series. Sounds fantastic. Sounds really fantastic. It's a great way to get this sound for decent money. Regarding Behringer, because I think a lot of people that's you know, like that's what they want to know about. They are well known for doing clones.
Recently,
I've never managed to get the right connection with those instruments because for some reason I'm focusing on the politics behind this brand, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Behringer. I never managed to connect with those machines. But I'm using clones, for instance, like this. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. When I move the screen, wow, special effects, Lucasfilm level. Yeah, this is great. This is a clone.
the Jupiter, no?
This is the Jupiter X or Jupiter 10, I don't know how they call it. It's the small version, and you have like models inside, so that's clones somehow of the 101, Jupiter 8, the JX 8P, and yeah, it sounds amazing. Sounds amazing.
I have actually a clone. I don't know. Like, that's getting
Show
a
me your
little
clone.
bit nerdy.
Show me your clone, Mark. Show me your clone.
But this beast, I don't know if you watch it. It's like the Antonus. Really.
Oh
cool.
man, I want to try this one.
I think actually it has the same circuit as the.
Yeah, they're from Barcelona, right?
Right? Yeah.
I think so.
Is the guy from Barcelona really Antonio?
Ah, they're from Barcelona, yeah.
And look at this. So this beauty. So actually it has the same circuit as the Antonus, even with the he was here explaining, like doing a demo show, and we want to do some. But one of the things, like, he really fully understand ARP original, the Antonus version, the Tonux that actually you have. You're the lucky one to have a really original one. And then he explained, like, what happened is, like, the first edition, that is exactly like the one you have, it has some kind of defects, you know, like something like it's not well constructed in terms of architecture, you know. But then it's actually the beauty of the scene, that the sound is really unique, because at certain point the voltage collapse and it's like it has a weird structure, but it's the beauty of it, you know, the imperfection that it has. And I fully understand, like, the meaning of why people love the first versions, because they are not perfect, and then some other clones, for example, try to implement new features that are cool, but at the same time he was explaining me some of the beauties of the original versions is like they let people to use it in a way that we thought the other for example, extras or more clean sound, it couldn't let the path of music the way it was. So
Yeah.
sometimes, as you say, like happy accidents, even in the construction of a synth, like imagine like an engineer design a synth and he made a mistake in the design, but that is
Yeah.
the beauty of it, like
Absolutely.
some imperfections.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I
Well,
have
yeah,
actually
that's like.
the only clone I have from Behringer is this one.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds good. And it's yellow.
yeah, Vegas,
No,
like
it sounds good. I mean, like sometimes people are a little bit posh, like, yeah, I don't want Behringer. It's not what I want to talk, what I want to say. It's great if you want this sound, if you want something that has this particular sound. The 2600 is convincing. The TB 303 sounds great, very similar. Uh, it's more like, yeah. Once again, it's like the relationship. You know.
we have
Like when I was 6 years old, 7 year old, I was listening to Jean-Michel Jarre on the radio, and then I got the vinyls, with my parents, and I was like, yeah, R2600, and I was like, oh, I want this synth. So, and it took me 4 years to be able to afford one, and I, of course, I wanted the original one, the same one that this artists used only on this album, and you don't get this kind of fulfillment with a clone. I don't get this kind of fulfillment with a clone. So yeah, but yeah, I saved money for a lot of years.
you have a Synthex that is one of the Jean-Michel Jarre, no, most
Also,
used
yeah,
synth. I think
yeah,
he was the first people or the first guy to use the Elka Synthex, I think.
yeah. He was sponsored by Elka when they released the
I realized
Synthex.
that.
So yeah, like the album Rendezvous has been uh, made like 95% with the Synthex, and yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
typical jazz sounds are made with the Synthex.
If every one of you have the contact of Jean-Michel Jarre, please let me know because I really want to shoot a masterclass with him. So please contact me as soon as possible. You have the contact. Okay, we have a statement, a long one from Scroll Mopes. It say, I prefer to buy hardware that standalone firmware. If it works, it works, no matter of updates, compatibility, etc. I love MIDI
That
5 pin the old way, but it worked 3 years ago and is still working today. I'm fed up with authorizations, plugins, compatibility, fighting with these aspects. I would need to the last OS, last Mac, and I totally agree in that.
That's a
In
good
that
point. I
sense.
forgot about that. That's a good point. Like, yeah, that's right. You can use that stuff forever. And yeah, I hate that. When you want to open a session, it's not compatible because it's
I know.
32 bits plugin and this one is 64 and all that shit. Oh my god, yeah, it's terrible with the updates and yeah, that's a very good point.
That's really like.
It's this is forever. That's right. Yeah.
Actually, yesterday
It's like vinyls. So once again, I did this comparison with vinyls. When you get a vinyl, it's forever. When you get a file, you burn your fucking hard drive, and you lose your music.
Well, I mean, you can lose actually the vinyl as well. Let's say, I agree, half. Or even, for example, in the sun, when it's too hot, whatever, it's delicate, the vinyl.
That's right. That's
I
right.
have agree. I'm not totally agree. Sorry about that. I kind of
No,
have.
you're right. You're right.
But
Yeah.
you can lose a vinyl or you can lose the hardware. But it's true. For example, yesterday we are in Mobile World Congress because we have for 4 years from now we have a stand in Aulard, and they asked me like they were doing an interview and they asked me, can you bring a MIDI controller or something to show us? And actually I got a MIDI controller and I got the last version of Makos Big Sur, and I just plug it and it seems it wasn't not compatible, so I couldn't use it. And it's like, why this compatibility is I hate it. And so I really love this this statement. So thank you. Good question, Albao. How do you relax? Where do you get where do you get inspiration?
Um, when I am in the studio, or yeah, when I am in the studio, I just Sometimes I just hang out, I just clean the studio, remove the dust, like sorting papers, reading manuals and stuff. And otherwise, I love going for a walk. Like I have this chance. I'm living in Paris and it's beautiful around here. So yeah, nothing really complicated, nothing really fancy. I'm just walking around with my earbuds, listening to music, and yeah.
Here, okay, it's the chat. I don't know. It's unbelievable. But let me try to resume something. Spring Guy 75 says DP4 and Sonic has a character for sure. And actually, when we shoot with other artists like who was like David Esquilache and many few others, when we were doing the masterclass shooting, they said, "Oh, I love the DP4. I love the DP4." I remember when Richie Houghton was using in live when he was doing the 909 decks
Yeah.
and effects, and he was using the pedal and live effects. So it's been like a classic
Yeah.
classic one.
Yeah, it's a great. Sometimes I even use it as a preamp. I bypass the effect and I just use it as a preamp because it goes through the converters. I think it's 12 bits probably, and it just sounds great. So that's one of my secrets.
We have people from Colombia, from Venezuela as well.
Hey,
Um,
Colombia!
que rico, Colombia. 1 second. First, the X7 with 12 bits converter has a grid to it. Wow, that's a really.
Yeah,
I guess like 12 bits it was like enough, no? 80s vibe, no? 12 bits converter was like enough.
yeah. No, but that's right. Yeah, the original DX7 has a very yeah. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but the sound is yeah, it's dirty. It's dirty, and it's interesting because when you play like very basic sine wave, just add this dirt, and it sounds great in the mix. It's not like this with the other versions, like even the X7 to FD. They improved it, and it doesn't sound like this one.
Olivier, what's your favorite hardware device for playing a live set?
Nothing very original. I like connecting a Moog on a loud PA because there is nothing like a Moog on a loud sound system. It's really fat. It's really so yeah. My lab rig is constantly changing depending of like what I want to do but I like the subsequent 37, the Sub 37. It's really nice. Or I have a Slim Fatty. It's very easy to carry around. Um, and yeah, I would say it's the Moog. The Moog 37. It's nothing very original because everyone uses it from buds into, but it just sounds fantastic on the sound system.
Spring Guy 75 says a really interesting statement. I got rid of many scenes to focus only on two or three to be able to get the most of them and time to make my sounds.
Absolutely, that's a wise decision. I wish I could do the same, but for some reason it's like a disease. I cannot sell anything. So
They
yeah.
were commenting this in the chat actually. If you want to get rid of them, just let us know and they can provide you their address.
Yeah, no. No, I just force myself to to focus on a few particular pieces of gear, and I have a storage, and also my girlfriend has a studio next door, so sometimes I just put some stuff in the other room, and so I can see it.
This head Brighton say when hardware is used and the channel are kept separate, do you find there is less fight for one bandwidth compared to software plugins which tend to fight for bandwidth? Do you think there's a difference between using of frequency bandwidth between hardware and software? Because
Um,
I guess he means because some software scenes are more bright and have more.
yeah.
I guess he means that.
Yeah. They have like a wider spectrum. Yeah, and that's right. I think it's like it's the same thing actually. You just figure out what are the best instruments for a certain category of sound, you know, and you kind of fill the spectrum with those kind of with different elements. Um, um, but yeah, that's right. That's right. That's a very interesting question. If I think about it, I will tend to add more EQ on a software instrument than on a hardware instrument. It's maybe easier to get the sound you need in a particular mix with hardware because you have like a more obvious color and obvious range of frequency. Interesting question. I never thought about that, but that's right. That's right. You know, like when I for instance, again, when I use the 101 um, for bass, for instance, it's because I know that it's gonna fill exactly this part of the audio range, the spectrum. So I'm not gonna process it so much, and it's not gonna be the same with the software. So yeah.
I guess sometimes because sometimes some software synth they're also actually like they have compressors, reverbs, and so
Yeah.
many effects that it makes the mix more easy, but at the same time complex because there's
Yeah.
more harmonic content, more difficult to mix, and sometimes like the raw analog synth, it's so simple. It's like an oscillator, as you say, so it's
Yeah,
more.
that's
Yeah,
why it's better to avoid presets. Presets are made for they are always spectacular because when you try the preset, you just want to buy the software,
yeah,
and it's much better to avoid those like heavily processed sounds with a lot of reverb and chorus and stuff like in Massive, for instance. Massive, sometimes the sound is so big that we put it in a mix, it's just impossible. It competes with everything else. Then you're gonna have to cut here and there and process again, and in the end, you have something that doesn't make any sense. So it's better to start from scratch, create your sound, and avoid all these bell and whistles.
yeah. Proper Brother has a really interesting questions and say, what goes into a decision to buy a new synth? And I guess I would say every day you are alive, it's a good day to buy a synth. No, jokes aside.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's at some point it's a disease, you know. It's just like you just want this and then you get it. You want this one, and you know. Yeah, I've tried to stop a little bit, like buying synths because first of all, this room is full packed, and yeah, I have so much to do already with what I have. So yeah, but back in the days, it was just like I had these legendary instruments that I wanted to try, you know, and to be part of my palette.
But
But yeah, at some point,
maybe,
it's nice to stop.
yeah, it's just but actually there's two different things. I think there's two, for me there's two different topics. One way is like how to make good music to succeed in the music industry, to get signed in the labels, how to make the best music possible. And the other thing is like the love for the synth, because for me are different. There is so many good like sound designers. They have no intention to be successful in the music business. They love to be in the studio making random noises and having fun, just enjoying the scenes. You know, and it could be a hardware or a software. But sometimes I guess like some artists they got confused because they said, "Oh, if I don't have this hardware or I don't have this software, I cannot best succeed."
Yeah,
Succeed. And I think there's two different topics. There is like synth collectors, they love it, not because they needed to succeed in terms of music industry.
yeah,
And then there is professionals that say, how can I be more efficient with my time in terms of I'm a professional music producer. I want to be succeed in music business. And I think for me, that's not. What do you think? It's two different topics.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You need to define the right tools. Once again, you know, like there's a software or hardware, and that's it. and collecting synths is something else. Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. And yeah.
How, okay, Betla Magogo says, how do you record into that machine? Do you have some huge sound card with tons of inputs, or do you have to do it one by one with a mixer?
So yeah, that's a good question. I have a lot of sources, and that's impossible to connect everything at the same time on the computer. But I like to have a very fast creative process. So I don't know. I'm not sure I could show you with well, you can see the SSL maybe. Yeah. Here I have this SSL mixer uh, directly connected to an Apollo 16. Um, and you can see it on the camera, but I have a patch and I can, you know, like very easily connect any synthesizer on one input of this mixer. Or I have like a few preamps also, but you can't see it on the camera.
In the
Oh
masterclass, you
yeah,
explained that. You explained
yeah,
your.
exactly, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I spent a lot of time, you know, connecting and labeling properly this patch because it's great for yeah, for gaining time, you know, like if I want to let's say I want to, I mean, the Juno is always connected, the 101 is always connected, that's one thing. But if I want, for instance, to connect the Jupiter on the SSL, I just have to plug one cable and it goes directly to the input of the Apollo, either directly through the input or through preamp, and yeah, and that's it. So I can connect at the same time 16 instruments to my computer
Yeah.
and to Logic.
I guess when some of the, for example, the people who is new into the hardware world, when you have so many synths connected in your studio, a really important part that sometimes people doesn't pay enough attention, it's the patching. You need to have a pre-patch. You need to have kind of a networking access to change
Yeah.
inputs and outputs, because then you can go crazy if you need to go to the back of the synth to connect and unconnect
Yeah, yeah, of course. I
wires,
think, yeah, yeah, it has to be properly organized and it has to work. It's like a computer. If you try producing music with a computer full of bugs, it's gonna be an enjoyable experience.
One a really cool thing from the studio is like all of the things are connected and ready to play. I love it. Sometimes when you go to studio, there's like so many scenes like are not plugged. Like for example, my studio, I have here you cannot see, but I have four scenes that are not plugged yet because I couldn't have the time. And for me, like it's just like I really love the way you have set up your studio. It's really cool. Actually, it got some inspiration from the way you
Thank you,
got it.
Mark. I appreciate. But yeah, I like working fast, so I really need to. You see, it has to. If I need to struggle for 15 minutes for a sound, it's you know, you're just like losing the energy and the pleasure.
Irida9 says, what's your advice for new producers that are getting lost in the software? I mean, the accessibility is huge and the options. How do you get along? I mean,
I, just try to force yourself to use uh, two plugins, you know, like two synthesizers, very good ones, and to do everything with those plugins, you know, instead of like collecting softwares and stuff. You know, you don't need the 15 compressors and 20 EQs and 25 synthesizers for producing one track. You know,
uh,
it's
I
very you know.
actually I was speaking with a producer, really good one, and he was explaining me like his decision to make music is like he has some scenes like you, but not as many as you, but he have some synthesizers that he's not never gonna sell. He want to keep it now for a lifetime. But then once in a while he buy a new synth. But his let's say his workflow was like, I'm only gonna make music with this synth for the
Yeah.
let's say 6 months. So he only used this synth to make the tracks. So and he releases like at least like say 4 or 5 EPs per year.
Yeah.
So he was using this synth for 4 months, and then if he like it, he keep it, and if he don't, he sell it, and then he gets a new one. So
Yeah.
it's a really interesting workflow.
That's a very interesting thing to create limits and to commit to something. That's I think it's a very important. It's a very important thing. I can tell you a story about my workflow and about my beats, about my drums. Uh, I've spent maybe 10 years working with software-based solution like battery and machine and drum rack in Ableton, and you know I was always struggling with like getting the right sound, and that I was you know like browsing like all the samples like 100 kick drum, bam 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 bam. I was like, fuck, what's wrong? You know, like we spent like 2 hours for like putting a track together, and then like literally like 2 weeks on the drums because they would soon sound like shit. And what I did actually, I bought this sampler. It's
The
a
Kai.
Akai S3000, and I put my Akai MPC 2000 out of storage, and then I selected 10 kick drums, 20 hi-hats, 10 claps, you know, and it just sounds fantastic, you know, because when I'm working on a track, this limitation creates the right landscape, the right configuration for creating my particular sound. And I think it's really clever to create like the right limitation and to select your right tools.
That's a really cool one. That's a really, really,
Yeah.
really
It's like you know, like you have like 16 mega octet,
megabytes. Yeah.
yeah, of memory in this S3000. So you know, like it's like you must select exactly the sounds you need. You know, I don't have 1,000 kick drums. I have 10 kick drums, but that's my kick drums, and I know they work for my music. So yeah, this I bought it like a few months ago, and it has changed my life.
Sometimes maybe we get lost into the endless possibilities of software, or even hardware. And sometimes we are more efficient and creativity when we have limitations. I think like it's really like Cheetah, for example, like FX Twin that he made this album only using this
Right?
synthesizer, Cheetah.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? And let's think about the Beatles recording Strawberry Field or probably like 4 or 8. I think it was 4 tracks, maybe 8. I think 4. I mean, what the fuck? It's it's just like it's amazing, you know. Those limitations actually were a source of creativity.
Yeah, for example, I remember like when especially the Beatles, and when they have these limitations in terms of hardware, because their imagination was like beyond the possibilities of technology back in the time, but that limitation led them to create these kind of
Yeah,
special creative ways because they couldn't have other way to do it. And someday it seems like we are in an era like there's endless possibilities. We can do whatever we want, and then
yeah.
sometimes we don't have inspiration. We sit in the studio like what I need to do, and that's a really interesting topic, not for today because that could be another hour,
Ah.
but it's a really interesting topic.
So many
And
examples in the history of music about that, you know, about the limitations and how they created new, like even new movements, you know, like house and techno music are a consequence of the limitation of those drum machines, of the 909 and the 808 and those Japanese synthesizers. So that's another example. Or if we talk about famous producers, Brian Eno has created so much with the DX7 because of this this reversed process of starting with a basic sine wave and adding effects and stuff in order to build something. Once again, limitations, one sine wave, nothing else.
Okay, I have a question, really deep one. DJ Kipa says, if you could build your own perfect dream synth, are there any items you would specifically want to have, or have you tried to make a dream analog synth out of modular scenes before? And let me say, like, we recently released a master. You know Colin Benders?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We just we just released a masterclass of Colin Benders that probably he has the one of the biggest modular scenes I ever
Yeah,
seen in my life.
yeah, yeah. It's out
Incredible.
of control. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But have you tried to work with modular scenes, or what? Or if you want to build your perfect synthesizer, what would have?
A little bit. But for me, it's been kind of a trap. The good thing is that it creates a lot of accidents, but at some point it's just too much for me. It's just out of control, but in a bad way. Like you spend like days connecting things, and you end up with a fart noise, like you know. Yeah, I mean, there are a few profiles on Instagram that are like this, like see walls of modules and stuff, and it's like it's not really my thing. But yeah, I like it. I like the fact that you can create something like really really personal. Um, I've also tried with Reactor to create my kind of perfect plugin, and with the right filter and granular synthesis. I love granular synthesis with modulations and step sequencers and stuff. And yeah, that's great. That's great to be able to create your own instrument. But regarding modular, yeah, no, I'm not so much into it. The ARP2600 is semi-modular, so yeah, that's what I do. I can show you my modular rig. It's not so big. It's here. So yeah, that's the ARP2600, and I just added like a few modules from Doepfer and Pittsburgh Electronic that I can connect to the ARP2600 to get more sounds and more modulation possibilities and oscillators and stuff like that. But that's it. For me, it's already more than enough options. And then I have this Arturia sequencer, and it's great because you can sequence notes, but also modulations and control voltage. So that's very exciting, and that's enough for me.
Uh, one of the problems now that we're talking hardware versus software, the problem of modular scenes is like you can create this amazing patch sound. It took you 4-6 hours. You create this beautiful, for example, we were shooting with Colin Benders. Really, you need to meet him because it's a really genius. It's a really incredible guy. But he was randomly create a patch that it was building a sequencer, building a synth, building the envelope, building everything, and he created beautiful melody, so beautiful melody, complex and beautiful. And it's like, why you're not gonna keep this? Because, for example, the benefits of the software, that you can save this patch, and then if you want to modify a little note or whatever, like, okay, you can use it again in the next month, wherever, and they can say, no, that's the beauty of it. You create this. I recorded in separate channels every sound, like drums, whatever, and then when you connect, you need to like force yourself to create something beauty again. And I think this is sort of a mix between inspirational,
Yeah.
like discipline,
Yeah. Yeah, you must commit to something. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It's interesting. Yeah, yeah. I've heard about a few producers who work like that. Like Villa-Lobos, I think, is like constantly recording what he's doing and creating textures and content for future tracks or remixes. Yeah, it's great. It's great. This discipline. Yeah, yeah. You must. It's what like back in the days. Like we were working on a track sequenced on the MPC, and then you had to record on DAT, and that's it. Everything was gone. So it's nice. Create a dynamic.
We're exceeding the time, actually. I know, like, Rodriguez, it's so busy, but we want to answer like a few more questions. Um, Circuito Sonoro Lab says, "Hi, I love synths, and I am now building my own do-it-yourself Everrack type model. What do you think about modular systems? Do you think they will gain more strength in the future, or they will be discontinued to their complexity and cost?" And it's a really interesting question. I mean, I need to say, like, I never got any modular synth, you know, especially for this reason. Like, for me, I don't have enough patience, let's say, to stay 1 week for one sound. You know, I want to make this statement, but I love when I see people like calling vendors using that stuff so
Yeah.
magically.
No, I don't. Modular synthesizers will not disappear. Modular synthesizers are nothing new actually. Modular synthesizers are the origin of synthesizers. You know, the first, I mean, of course there was a theremin and stuff like this, but the first real synth was the Moog modular that Wendy Carlos used on Switched on Back, and it was the 60s. So it's nothing new, and they will never disappear. That's for sure. That's for sure. It's a new.
Maybe you know was because it became, it's not disappear, but maybe it become more trendy lately for
Yeah.
maybe genres. No, some genres like make
Yeah, but it's like
them
this.
more
In the
popular.
90s, guitars were more trendy, and then they kind of, like, the kids, they wanted to produce electronic music, but guitar will be back again. It's like, like it's trends. Music is like this.
Uh, Scroll Mobs and Spring Guy 75, they're having a really, really fun chat, especially, for example, Spring Guy 75 said, like, hardware scenes, especially the analog ones, hardware scenes like analog ones, they need to be calibrated and keep it sometimes. And I totally agree. It's a pain in the ass, when
Yeah.
they fail. Let's say we didn't compare that part. We say like operating system, you need to, blah blah blah, but we didn't mention about the problems and issues about especially
Of
the
course,
old
there's a price.
ones.
Of course, there's a price to pay. Of course, yeah. Of course,
Uh,
the maintenance is insane.
uh,
Is insane.
I,
Yeah. Of course, of course. That's something you must take in consideration. And sometimes, obviously, if you want to focus on producing music, it's better to get a software or a clone. You know what? It took me 3 years to get this R2600 working.
3 years.
Yeah, because I wanted Tonus. I wanted the original one from 71, 72. So the first one I bought was not an original, so I kept it for a few months, and then I found the Tonus, and I kind of, I did a swap, and then I got the Tonus. I opened the Tonus, but it was not a Tonus inside. It was like a Tonus outside, but not inside. Then I had to find another one, and I found another one, and it was broken, and it took me like 1 year to fix it properly, you know. So and now I'm very happy to get it, but it took me 3 years to lost in problems.
That's really challenging, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Have you tried Russian synth, like hardware synth, these
Yeah.
polyvox?
Yeah. I love the Polybox. I love the Polybox, and last time I played in Ukraine, and I went to the studio of these guys, Eliatics, and yeah, they constantly buy these old Soviet synthesizers and keyboards, and that's just like amazing. It's just so different because the components were different. The electronic components were from Russia. It's just like raw and like in your face and kind of yeah. And I love the Polybox. Um, yeah, I've tried to get one at some point and then I skipped it, but it's a great synthesizer, great machine. The Russian Moog.
The Russian Moog, yeah, that's true. I never tried actually, but
It's
I'm definitely,
incredible. It's
it's
a
incredible.
slap in your face.
Really?
Yeah, it's really violent, like really harsh and powerful.
Okay, let's do the last few questions. Six Ocean Music again says, "Can you please talk about studio monitors? Which brand do you trust the most and why?"
So this is definitely hardware. I've been using Yamaha NS10 since 1995, and I still have my original Yamaha NS10. And I use and I have a Focal Twin 6, which I really like. But you know, once again, regarding monitors, it's really a matter of taste. Uh, I work a lot on as you can see, this is not, it was not originally, this room was not originally a recording studio. It was a living room. And the acoustic is terrible, so most of the time I'm working with headphones. And I really like those ones. It's a Beyerdynamic DT 1990. It's really good. And I start mixing a track, I work on the NS10 in mono and on one NS10. And then I start getting the right balance, levels, EQ, compression on one NS10 in mono. And eventually, when the balance is right, I spread it out on the vocals.
No vocals, really. I mean, sometimes we don't need to have a perfect studio with perfect acoustic. Obviously, if you can have it, it's cool. But I really, let's mention the benefits of, for example, like having a studio in your house inside. I saw so many producers like they made this huge studio out of their house, that producers that used to work at their room, a small room, and then they built like a super cool studio, but it's like maybe like 15 minutes or even 20 minutes away from their houses. And they told me, Mark, I feel like I got more inspiration when I was working at home. Can you believe it? And I say, it happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've tried both, and yeah, I like having my studio next to my room
Uh,
and family. I don't know if you can hear
Family.
the family. It's still getting hectic next door.
Okay. Well, Circuit Sonoro was asking about the name of the brand. It's the Bayer Dynamic DT 990, right?
1990, yeah, Beyerdynamic, yeah. They're a little bit expensive, but that's a great investment because um, yeah, it sounds like I don't know what I don't know what to say. Sounds like like a professional studio. Like when you use this midfields monitor, you have the same feeling. It's really clear, really well balanced, and yeah, really nice. And they are expensive, but not as expensive as other brands like Odez and stuff like that. So that's a good deal, I think.
But let's say I'm not sure if it's expensive, because compare how expensive headphones, good ones, compare with the monitors plus the acoustic treatment. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
cheaper.
That's for sure. Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Acoustic treatment is expensive. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to spend too much money in this room because I'm not the owner. I'm renting and I'm moving soon. Actually, today is the last day I'm using this studio. So you have like the last.
Okay, let's end this, and we exceed like 15 minutes of your time. I wanted to mention like scroll mobs. Say you need to love spaghetti cows with modulars. I think it's funny.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's nuts.
Uh, okay, Olivier, thank you so much. It was a really pleasure to have you
My
in
pleasure,
internet.
Mark. My pleasure. Always fun talking about music with you and with all the people that I cannot see. That's always frustrating, when you know that people are asking questions and stuff. But yeah, I wish that in the future we can see everyone and share, like the same room. I'm sure you
Well,
will make it happen.
no, actually, like with the Q&A, for those who are signed to Rodrigo Junior Masterclass, very soon we will join a private Q&A, for the students. We do it with all the masterclass. So when you get a masterclass, at least let's say once per year, the artists usually do a Q&A, to answer questions, doubts related to the
Yeah.
masterclass. As your masterclass is new, let's say like really soon, we will be joining a Q&A
I would love that. I would love that. Actually, I received a lot of feedbacks since we released the masterclass, and I was very happy about that. You know, like students like being happy about that. But sometimes they ask like very particular questions that I would love to answer. You know, so I'm really looking forward to this Q&A about the masterclass and talking about like very specific compression settings and EQ and stuff. It's gonna be great.
Met so many people saying like Circuito Sonoro Lab, thank you. Six Ocean Music, thank you. Met Vozen, thank you. Kigum, thank you. Quick Mac, Avao, Bed Magogo, Thousand Mari, Springer 75, Circuito Sonoro, thank you all, really. TSMO DJ, thank you. Thank you everyone. Really was a fun chat today.
Thank you guys. It's if this chat can inspire you to create great music, is the best gift that I can have. So yeah, just have fun and keep on experimenting and creating great stuff. And
lovely words
yeah.
Lovely words from the master Rodriguez Jr. Thank you so much. See you guys soon and enjoy the evening. Bye.
Bye.